Hey guys, welcome to my beginner rogue deck guide. This is a tempo deck. So most beginner decks uh, place emphasis on controlling tempo and maintaining board control, which means by maintaining board control, I mean is that we want to have a minion advantage over our opponent. Because what happens is that if we already have a minion on the board and our opponent then plays a minion after his turn, it gives us the opportunity to destroy his minion and then use the minion that we already have on the board to attack their hero portrait and bring the HP down. So that's the fundamental of this beginner tempo deck. I do have some gameplay footage. Check out my other videos on this deck, which shows some gameplay footage against Zoo Warlock, I think, as well as a Shaman deck. So I'm going to run through all these cards and go through the reasoning of why they're in this deck and how this deck should be played. So the first card that we have here is Backstab, which is basic rogue card. Deal 2 damage to undamaged minion for 0 mana. This is a great card to trigger off our combo abilities that some rogue cards have. Also, it's a great tempo card because of the fact that it costs 0 mana. What you can do is in like the early games, 2 damage is early game. 2 damage is enough to get rid of a minion, so you can cast Backstab on the minion that our opponent has, kill it, and then use our remaining mana pool to summon our own minion. So it therefore allows us to grab board control away from our opponent if they went first. Then at 1 mana we have Deadly Poison, which gives your weapon +2 attack, costs 1 mana. This is a card that we normally use to boost up the rogue hero power. So the rogue hero power costs 2 mana to summon a 1/2 weapon. You add that with Deadly Poison, it becomes a 3 mana 3/2 weapon in total. And this is a really useful card also to gain tempo in the early game. Because of the fact that we can use our hero power on turn 2 and use Deadly Poison on turn 3, and it leaves us with 2 mana remaining to summon a small minion after casting Deadly Poison. This Deadly Poison card could allow us to get rid of one or two of our opponent's minions, which will theoretically allow us to also gain a board advantage and put pressure on our opponents. Then afterwards, we start at 2 mana. We have Eviscerate, which deals 2 damage and has a combo which allows it to deal 4 damage. This is one of the one of the common cards that we have in this deck. Most of the cards that we have in this deck are basic cards, so you get them for free. We have, I think, either 3 or 4 common cards and no cards with higher rarity than that. So this deck is very cheap to make and is very effective for its price. Also, so for Eviscerate, we wanted to ideally get the combo off with this card because the combo is so strong. Dealing 4 damage for 2 mana is really efficient and can get rid of 4 mana and sometimes even 5 mana minions. So we definitely want to play this card in the mid game. Normally you play a 1 mana card, a 2 mana or 3 mana card prior to playing Eviscerate. So if we were to play a 3 mana minion, follow it up with Eviscerate to remove our opponent's 3 mana or 4 mana minion, it allows us to get the board in our favor. So if you look at all these first 3 cards, basically all they do is allow us to take board control. And similar to this card as well, it's slightly less effective, or actually uh, definitely less effective than the previous 3 cards. But what it does give over them is ability to draw a card. So you deal 1 damage to finish off a potentially cheap minion. Maybe you're trading one of your small minions into a bigger minion that our opponent has and it lands up on 1 HP. Using Shift to finish it up is great because it allows you to draw a card and cycle through your deck faster. So ideally you want to put this in a situation where it will remove a small minion that our opponent has, and because of its ability to draw a card, gives you a card advantage over our opponent. So not only do we want to get advantage just on the board, but if we can minimize the disadvantage that we have, in terms of having cards in our hand, because we're going to be playing more cards than our opponent in order to get that board control. And if we can minimize the card loss that we have, we can keep our hand as full as possible. while also gaining board control. That's the ideal situation, and Shiv definitely allows us to do that. Next, at 2 mana, we start going into our minions. We had no 0 and 1 mana minions, but at 2 mana, we start having minions. First one is Acidic Swamp Ooze, which is a basic card and has a battle cry to destroy your opponent's weapon. This is a fantastic card, and you even see professional players occasionally run one copy of this card in their deck because it's a good tempo swing card, and it's not a it's a 3/2 for 2 mana, which is the average stat distribution for a 2 mana card. However, the fact where you get to destroy your opponent's weapon could be critical and game changing. In an event, in a deck where our goal is to fight for tempo and we are using our own weapon to remove our opponent's minions, if we end up facing up a deck which has a similar objective to us, for example, some warrior decks and some shaman decks, even hunter decks, have weapons as well, and will use it to gain board control. So having this card to remove our opponent's weapon while simultaneously putting a body on the board is a fantastic tempo gain in the right situation. And the fact that it has an average stat distribution for its mana cost means that even if you don't destroy a weapon, it's still very playable on turn 2. And I recommend playing it on turn 2 if your opponent doesn't have a weapon, because it's just an average 2 mana minion, which could potentially be a fantastic 2 mana minion in the right situation. Next, at 2 mana, we have the fast Ringleader, which has a 2/2 minion, and it has a combo which allows it to also summon a 2/1 Defias Bandit. Provided you get to pull its combo off, it then becomes a 4/3 in overall stats, which is great value for a 2 mana minion. In fact, it's actually a 3 mana minion's worth of value. So that's why we have it in this deck. Good, very good in combination with Backstab. Or even if we get the second turn and end up with a coin, if we end up with a coin, what we can do on our first turn is play the coin and follow it up immediately with the fast Ringleader to get a 4/3 worth of minions in turn 1, which is quite troublesome to get rid of. And if our opponent has a minion on turn 2, we can get rid of it with Backstab if we have it in our hand, follow it up immediately with the fast Ringleader, and that gives us a lot of tempo control, a lot of board control. Sorry. Um, then at 3 mana we have Shadow Strike, which deals 5 damage to an undamaged character. So this is a very cost-effective card because 5 damage is usually enough to kill 4 mana minions and 5 mana minions. Some 6 mana minions with great abilities like Emperor Thaurissan or Sylvanas also have 5 HP. So doing 5 damage with using only 3 mana is great value and also great for any tempo deck. A lot of rogues will run one copy of this card, even professionally. But it's such a cheap card in terms of rarity. It's a common, so we run 2 copies of it in this deck. Then at 3 mana we have our minions. This is basic minion Iron for a Grizzly, a 3/3 for 3 mana with taunt. Not the best 3 mana minion, but the fact that it has taunt allows it to take some pressure away from us when we're going up against aggressive decks. And it's probably the most playable 3 mana minion that we get as far as basic cards are concerned. Of course, if you do have other 3 mana minions like a Harvest Golem, which is a common, or any other 3 mana minions that you think are better than Iron for Grizzly, I recommend putting it into this deck instead of this. If it's not a key part of this deck, we just need a 3 mana minion with decent stats. Any other 3 mana minion which you feel are better than this, definitely put it in instead if you have it. Next at 3 mana is our other basic card, which is Shattered Sun Cleric, which is a 3/2 that has a battle cry to give a friendly minion +1/+1. This is probably, I would say, the next best 3 mana minion that we have as far as basic cards are concerned. It allows you to boost up the stats of our already existing minions, which are either going to be Acidic Swamp Ooze or the fast Ringleader. If we can use it to allow those minions to trade into our opponent's minions, which might be bigger, that's a tempo advantage for us. If it trades into a smaller minion and then allows our minion to survive because it has extra 1 HP, that's also a value trade in terms of board control. So this is a very flexible card. The only weakness of it is that it's underwhelming if it's the only minion that you have on the board because you can't target itself with a battle cry. Next at 4 mana is our minion, the Chill Wind Yeti, which is just great value for 4 mana minion, the benchmark in terms of stat distributions at this cost. 5 toughness makes it very hard to remove. Combined with our earlier game tempo cards, this card has potential to become a very big threat and could be what finishes off our opponent. In an ideal situation, you could potentially attack your opponent twice or three times with this card and bring their HP down really low, which is and it's 5 HP is a kind of annoying number to remove because if you look at this deck, for example, tempo cards in this deck, aside from Shadow Strike, cards like Shiv do 1 damage, Eviscerate does 4 damage. This allows weapons to do 3 damage. This does 2 damage. 5 HP is typically a toughness number that requires 2 cards to remove, and that's usually very troublesome for our opponent. So this is a great value minion for its cost is what I'm getting at. Next at 4 mana, we also have Ogre Magi, which is a 4/4 that gives +1 spell damage. And the reason why I put this card in this deck, even though you almost never see it, is because it allows our tempo spells like Shadow Strike and Eviscerate and Shiv to do that extra 1 damage or backstab as well. So we could essentially play this card, and it allows our tempo control spells to become more powerful, and the stat distribution in terms of stat distribution is a 4/4 mana, which is still okay. You do lose that one toughness over Chillwind Yeti, but that's not that big of a deal, considering the potential of its ability. Next at 4 mana is Southsea Squidface. It's a common card from the new Whispers of the Old Gods expansion. It's also a 4/4/4, except that its ability is a Death Rattle, which gives your weapon +2 attack. This, in my opinion, is a very nice card for a tempo deck because getting the +2 damage onto your weapon allows you to basically this minion can trade into another minion and gives your weapon the ability to trade even more minions or do 6 damage to your opponent's face if you had your poison dagger from your hero power already equipped by the time this weapon dies. Next at 5 mana is Assassin's Blade. This is the biggest weapon that Rogue has, and also synergizes very well with Deadly Poison and South Sea Squidface, which we have in this deck. This card, as it is, does an overall of 12 damage, which can be used to either hit our opponent's hero portrait or take out their minions. If we do manage to boost the attack with this card or with Deadly Poison, it allows it to do an overall of 20 damage, which is basically guaranteed board control throughout the mid game, or just a huge looming threat against our opponent if they can't put pressure on us, because then we'll just start hitting their hero portrait 4 times and do 20 damage. Then at 5 mana we have Assassinate. This is an expensive card for a tempo card. For 5 mana, typically once you play Assassinate, you won't be able to play any minions on the same turn unless it's in the late game. But what this does is it gives you guaranteed removal, just destroy any minion. A lot of times minions have taunt, high toughness, they have divine shield, whatever. Assassinate will get rid of that for 5 mana. So if we are already at a board advantage, by the time we have to use Assassinate, which we should be because all the other cards that we have in this deck are lower in cost compared to Assassinate. So we just use this card on our opponent's big minion, which they're trying to use to regain board control, and the minions that we already have on the board by the time we play this card will win the game for us. We have 2 copies of it in this deck because sometimes there's a lot of legendary and rare minions and epic minions as well that are played on turns 5 and above that can get really annoying to remove using only small spells like Eviscerate and Backstab. So we have 2 copies of Assassinate in this deck to guard for that. It's really important to um, judge what kind of deck your opponent's using, and sometimes keep this card in your hand for an extensive period of time, waiting for the right moment to use it, because it is game changing. Then we have at 6 mana the final card, which is our late game card, Boulder Frisk Ogre, 6 mana, 6/7. I wouldn't, well, it's not really exactly a late game card because you don't want to go too late into the game with this deck, but it does give great stat values for its mana cost. 6/7 is the benchmark for all 6 mana minions. 7 toughness is really annoying to remove. 6 attack puts it out of range of Big Game Hunter. And so by having this card in our deck potentially as a finisher, or just that card you play on turn 6, to kind of go like to your opponent that if they don't remove this card in the next turn, we're gonna start playing our tempo spells, and this card is going to hit their hero portrait several times and will win the game for us right there and then. So yeah, uh, try out this beginner tempo rogue. Hope you guys enjoy it. It is reasonably strong considering the fact that it only has several common cards and everything else is basic card. I do hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy the gameplay footage video that I posted up as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you.